This is going to be a quick fire tutorial, so what we're going to do is head to the Next.js website. You'll find the line of code that you need to create the Next.js project. No TypeScript, yes, ESLint. So cd Next.js and open it up in VS Code. You'll have 3 folders. You want to open up the styles folder, remove anything that's not globals.css, and inside of the pages there'll be references to these styles. The one in _app.js, that's the one you want to keep. The one inside index we can get rid of. So we can actually get rid of most of this stuff. We only want to keep basically the export default function, where now this will be our page. Now we're going to install Tailwind CSS, but for Next.js. I think it's the same steps, but I just like to type that in because it's more explicit. So we're going to add Tailwind CSS, post CSS, and auto prefixer. We'll let that run, and then after we're going to be putting in this line of code, which will create the post CSS config and the Tailwind config. So we'll run that Tailwind init file. Let's open it all back up, and you'll see that there are 2 new files. In the Tailwind config.js, we're actually going to replace this entirely with step 3 of the Tailwind CSS. And we're going to remove this source area because we have chosen not to use the source folder, which is in Next.js 13. And next you'll see that we need to add the Tailwind imports into our globals.css, the only CSS file that we kept, and we'll save that in there. And at this stage, this should be the front end setup for Next.js. It's as simple as that. We type yarn dev, we head over to the localhost URL, and here it is, hello world. I think Tailwind also has an example of what they, yeah, that's right. So we'll even take the example, and we'll also put it in a container. Underline bold header. There we go. Alright, so that's it for Next.js. Let's move on to Strapi. So, Strapi, on their homepage, you'll see that they literally have an install command here. So we're going to paste this code into our main project folder, so not inside of the Next.js folder, and we'll name it Strapi. Do a quick start. I'm actually going to stop it here because my node version is 18.9. So all it's really going to do now is it's going to install the node modules, and I don't want to do that because first I want to change my node version to 14.20 because I know that this is the one that works. So I'm going to delete those node modules, head back in here, and I'm going to touch an mvmrc, which is my node package manager. I'm going to type 14.20 in there, and I'm going to do a quick trick, which is I'm coming out of this folder, then I'm going back in, and what you'll see is it's changing the node version to 14.20, and from here I'm going to install, and then I'm going to run the server by typing yarn and yarn develop straight after. Okay, that's done. It's building the admin UI and starting the server. Here we are. So I'm just going to put in some really quick details. This is on my local machine. I don't really mind what it all is. Everything is literally admin. And let's start. And for the sake of this guide, let's just go in and create a collection type. And we're just going to go with a traditional post where I'll create some fields. It may not be all of the ones that are really required for an actual post, but let's see what we can come up with. So we'll have a title, and we're going to press another field, and we need a slug, something that we can find it by. So in the advanced settings, it needs to be a required field and a unique field because we don't want it clashing with any of the other posts. And we're going to name it slug. We'll add another field. I'm going to make some rich text where we'll call it content. And then I think we'd like a cover photo. So we can go to single media, and in the advanced settings, let's say that we explicitly want it to be an image, not a video, not audio, not files. We won't require it, and we'll call it cover. And I think it's sometimes cool when you have a bit of an intro, like an additional intro. Maybe it's more like a portfolio thing, but like a short description. Let's go with short description. No spaces allowed for the name of the attribute. And there are no particular things that we want to define here. Maybe we want a maximum length of 256 characters, just so we can control the design a bit better. So let's see if there are any other fields that could be cool to use. Nah. Alright. So I'm going to save the post. And we'll just create a single post as well. So post name 1, post 1. This is Markdown. So if you know Markdown, you can just write some here. What I like to do is I like to go to this site called lorem2.com and just pull off some content. Image, upload an image. Awesome. And a short description. We'll just also make it. Let's save that. And it will go into saved. Be aware, you do still need to publish it for it to appear in the API response or on your site eventually. Publish. And just to be quick and easy, we're going to create multiple by duplicating them. And you'll see if I try and save this with the same slug, it'll throw an error. Great, because we only ever want to find one when we make this query later. So we have 3 posts now. To go and access this data, technically, it's localhost 1337/API/posts. But we're not going to get through. The reason for this is because it's not open. The root isn't open. So within roles, you can either, and maybe just for quick testing, or if it's only reading that is going to be happening, you can expose this find one for the post, because if you do that, then you'll get a response. But let's say you don't want to do that, then what we need to do is create an API token where we can access any type of level of information that we want in this token. So read only, full access, or custom. We're going to go for, let's go for read only. Read only or full access for the sake of this tutorial. It doesn't really matter. So we're going to call it read only access for localhost. I'm using it for localhost now. So we're only going to see this code once, and then it's going to hide. So we're going to save that. I've copied it what we're going to do is head back into our Next.js file, and we're going to create an environment for our local host. And inside of this, we're going to write what our Strapi token is. And then we want a next public base URL, which would be the URL of the next install, and a next public Strapi API URL. What do we want to do now? We want to extract some of the information that we just put in on the Strapi CMS into our Next.js file. So we want some of these posts to start to appear here. Let me just style up this a bit more. So we're just going to type here blog posts, and to make it kind of more fun, we want what we want to happen is that we have 3 posts appearing next to each other. These 3 next to each other. So we're going to type div grid calls 3 with a gap of 10 in between. And one of the cards will be the lighter shade of slate that we just applied to the background according to Tailwind, and we'll have a rounded large with a padding of 8. Let's just try it. And what will appear inside of here will indeed be a post. Maybe this can be the short description. Just so we're clear, I'm going to write short description here. And we also have a cover, but you know what, let's just leave that for now. We're going to link it to what eventually will be the post. And we're going to put that post button link, the post link inside of a button. So we just need to import link from next link here. Let's see what we're looking at. Okay, I mean, cool colors, right? We'll move it away from the top. Okay, so you can imagine that later when we do that, there'll be 3 posts. How do we get all of that information inside of this page? We want to do a fetch inside of a get static props. So we're going to export an async function, get static props, and this placeholder is quite nice. Const res, thank you GitHub Copilot. Await fetch link, turn it into JSON, and return the props posts, which is this. So we don't want to grab this link, we want to get, and we're going to here's an interpolated environment value here. We're going to call our Strapi API URL, and we want the endpoint API posts. So once it's gone through this, it will return props posts. Then we want to put those posts inside of the view. If we console log this and preview it in the browser, we get data null, error, forbidden. And that is because we haven't passed any headers for the authorization. So we want headers, authorization. Oh, it just had it there. bearer token, next public Strapi JWT, but we don't have that. We just have Strapi token. So we'll put Strapi token there instead. And if we refresh, now we have some info coming through, some data coming through. So an authenticated route has now been set up, and we're getting it via static props, so it will generate on build. And what we'd also like for this to do is for it to revalidate every 60 seconds. What we do now is we grab this post. Actually, let's quickly turn this into a component, right? I think it'll be good to show what that would look like. So we're just going to create a components folder, and then we're going to make it a post card, which will be a standard functionless component. Be a post card. Here we're going to accept a title. What are we going to set? A title, a short description, and a link. Since we haven't fully figured out exactly what we want to receive though, we're just going to put data. So it's going to listen for the prop data. So yeah, we're going to paste that in there, which means the import link needs to be in here. And let's just leave that there for now. Import them into the main page. Import postcard. And instead of using all of this code, we're going to put here postcard. Okay. What's also important is that it can get the rest of the props that's being passed to it, like the key, for example, that we'll give it in a moment. And if there are any on-click actions or anything like that, but I'll leave the specifics for a different video. And for the post data, we want to map them. So it's post.data.map. Inside will be an item and an index, where we're going to show the postcard for each item. So the key will use the index, and the data that will be accepted here is going to be the item. So a way to go about this is to console log now the data, because it's easy to kind of read what's coming through this way. So inside of attributes, we have the title, which means that this here would be data attributes title. We change that, refresh, and they are post name 1 because I think that is actually what they are. So let's head back in here and we'll say post name 2. We don't have to republish them because we're just making a save. There we go. Post name 1, post name 2, and post name 3. The short description was similar. It was data.attributes.short description, and the link was data attributes dot, this is why we have this over here, slug. It may be that the posts live under the posts folder, so that way we can code it like this: posts, and it goes there. So maybe it's more normal for this to read more. All right, so now we have dynamic posts that we're reading on our Next.js site, which is coming straight from Strapi. Let's just go in and create another post, another crazy post. What do we want to do next? We want to link this to the post page and actually grab the post. How do we go about that? So in Next.js, they have very smart routing where a dynamic page would show with brackets around them. But because we're inside of the posts root, we need to create a posts folder, and then inside of that we'll create a post.js. And this should just be also a standard functionless component where it's a post page. I mean, it technically just needs to be exactly the same as this one. So let's just copy and paste this, and we'll name it post. And we don't need postcard anymore. It's not for now. We're going to be passing a post, and let's keep this container. So we need to do similar stuff, but we will be returning only a post each time. So what we're doing is quite simple. We just want to match the slug with what we're with the data entry that we're trying to reach, because we have post 1 which coincides with the slug. What to do is get a res request and response, and we want to know the post, which would be the params post. Why post? Post param. Post because that is what we called it over here. So that's what it will be looking out for. So within our search results here, we want to filter by slug post param. Let's see what we get from that. Oh, let's remove this out. Get static paths is required for dynamic SSG pages and is missing for this current post. That's because we also need to create a get static paths. So when it generates the site, it knows each page that it needs to create. So let's go ahead and do that. So we'll export a synchronous function get static paths, and we are going to do something very similar, in fact the same, but take out the filters because we want all of the posts, and we need to end up with some paths. So we're creating const paths is post data map post and the params are post attribute slug, because this is what we want to grab to make all of the pages, because we'll be making those, Next.js will be making those requests, and we want to return the paths with fallback false. Get static paths rec is not. Oops. Okay, let's see if we have any errors. All right, we don't, and looks like we're currently returning everything. In fact, it's not the filters, it is the slug is, I see what it is. Actually, what we want to do is filters slug is slug. Const slug is post. There we are. Post 1. Okay, so we're getting all the static passing it through, getting the static props and putting them to this page. Now we want to show the post here. So h1, this will be post, and actually we can do post as post data 0, since what we got back was post data 0, and that way we can head straight into here. Let's even put in attributes, because it looks like we'll need to be referencing that each time. So we'll just say post title. There we go. And post the short description. We'll put a line there, and for now we'll just do this dangerously set inner HTML just to show the content, because we'll need a Markdown plugin to show this correctly. In fact, let's do it. Let's do React Markdown. So install React Markdown into the Next.js folder. And how do we use it? React Markdown. Click into the post. It will import it at the top, and then we use it just with React Markdown. So instead of using the dangerously set inner HTML, we shall use the post content. And that way we have a styled H1 and paragraph. So now you can come out back into the home page and select another crazy post, and we'll see another crazy post. Another crazy post again at post 6, and you have a basic and adaptable structure to create loads of posts, delete them, and have them statically available on your Next.js site. We have created a quick and easy dynamic site with a Strapi CMS communicating to Next.js that's using Tailwind CSS for a complete modern development environment. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, and encourage me to perhaps make another one. Leave a suggestion in the comments below on something that you'd like to learn, something that you think that I'd be able to help you with, and I'll see you in the next one.